Last summer, me and my brother went to an anime convention together, and on the last day of the convention, we realized we still hadn't found anything for my stepdad. Now, I was a little panicked at this point. There was only a few hours left in the con, and we still hadn't gotten him anything when I came across this guy. Now, I thought he was perfect. My stepdad's a gamer. He likes Mario. I'll get him this Bowser. So I go up to the lady selling these bad boys, and I ask, how much for the Bowser? And she said $25, and I'm thinking, great. That's a good price. It looks handmade. This is what I'll get for my stepdad. And so I then asked her, do I just take him off the booth, or do you have more hidden underneath? And she said, no. I sell cross-stitching kits. And I was like, okay. I knew what cross-stitching was, kinda. I knew it fell under the realm of old lady crafts, and I love old lady crafts. I love sewing, I love crochet, and so I got the kit, I brought it home, and I just started Googling cross-stitch. What is cross-stitch? Cross-stitching tutorials. I was on Google, I was on TikTok, I was on YouTube looking up tutorials. And in my research, I kept coming across needlepoint. And it was to the point I was getting a little bit confused, and so that is the topic of my speech today. What is needlepoint? What is cross-stitch? How are they similar and how are they different? My first point is going to be what is needlepoint and what's cross-stitch. Needlepoint is a bunch of stitches stitched on a canvas using a pattern and a grid to create a picture. Very similarly, cross-stitch is a bunch of little X-shaped stitches stitched on a fabric using a pattern to create a little pixelated picture. Now, these two sound very similar, and that goes into my second point. How are cross-stitch and needlepoint similar? Now, cross-stitch and needlepoint both fall under the realm or umbrella of embroidery. They both use a needle and they both use a thread, and the patterns that you would use to complete the projects are the same. They're interchangeable. So, this is my current needlepoint project, and this is my current cross-stitching project. If I wanted to take the pattern from my needlepoint project and turn it into a cross-stitching project, I can't because they're interchangeable. Now you can kind of see why I was getting the two confused. Let's go into my third and final point. How are cross-stitch and needlepoint different? Now, the main difference is how the fabric is used, what kind of fabric is used. For cross-stitch, it is called fabric. It is flimsier, and because it is flimsier, we use this tension hoop. Compared to needlepoint, we call it a canvas, and it is harder, it is more rigid, the holes are bigger, and needlepoint is usually seen as the step up to cross-stitch. Why is this? Well, first off, the variety of stitches. For needlepoint, there is hundreds of different stitches you can use in your needlepoint canvas, compared to cross-stitch, where there's only really 2 or 3. In my experience, I've only used 2 or 3, which is the cross-stitch, the half-stitch, the back-stitch, and then I've heard of the French knot, but personally, I've never used it. Another reason why needlepoint is seen as kind of like the step up is needlepoint is more expensive than cross-stitch. Because the holes are bigger and the fabric is more, or the canvas is more firm for needlepoint than cross-stitch, it's going to be more expensive. Another reason and another difference is the fact that for needlepoint, the canvas is usually either painted or printed on. So the pattern is going to be painted or printed on, compared to cross-stitch where you just count it out and you kind of freeball it. And those are the main differences between needlepoint and cross-stitch. I gave you the definitions of them, how they're similar and how they are different.
Here's a little after video to show my examples. I realized since I was so far away from the camera you couldn't really see it well. So my Bowser, this is the needlepoint, and my cross-stitch.